Jimmy Livingston was born with a rare condition that left him with no immune system at all. For him, even the tiniest germ could be deadly. To survive, he had to live in complete isolation, sealed off from the outside world inside a plastic bubble. From birth, Jimmy's life was controlled by strict rules of cleanliness. He couldn't touch anything unless it had been thoroughly sterilized, and direct contact with people was impossible. His mother, Mrs. Livingston, was especially overprotective, keeping him away from everything and everyone. Until he turned 4, Jimmy wasn't even allowed home. When his parents finally brought him back, it was inside his transparent bubble. His bedroom was redesigned to accommodate it, giving him a larger bubble space where he could move around safely. Attached to the bubble were special protruding gloves that allowed his parents to touch him without breaking the barrier. Every toy Jimmy owned had to be disinfected before being placed inside. His entire childhood unfolded within those plastic walls. His mother never wanted him to leave. To make sure of it, she filled his bedtime stories with grim endings, always warning that freedom led to death. She strictly controlled what Jimmy could see or learn, insisting there was only one TV channel and one magazine in existence, which she allowed him to watch and read. Even his haircuts and hugs had to be done through the bubble's plastic arms. On top of her overprotectiveness, Mrs. Livingston was a hardline nationalist. She taught Jimmy only the things she believed in, forcing her narrow ideas on him. With no other knowledge of the world, he accepted it all, not realizing there was more to life beyond his bubble. Everyone in the city knows about the unusual bubble boy, but this fame doesn't help him. Instead, the neighborhood kids mock him by wrapping themselves in plastic and teasing Jimmy outside his house. Mrs. Livingston often has to chase them away. Jimmy's meals are all homemade. His food is delivered through a decontamination tube, which sterilizes it before he can take it inside. Now 16 years old, Jimmy explains that he grew up like any other kid. He feels happy when he receives an electric guitar as a gift, even more than if he had been given a car. One day, while looking out his window, he notices a new girl his age moving into the neighborhood. Her name is Chloe. Jimmy quickly develops a crush on her, though he doesn't understand love or relationships. His mother senses this and warns him with a grim story about a boy who died after touching the girl next door. For years, Jimmy secretly watches Chloe from his window, and eventually she notices him too. He begins to feel new emotions he doesn't understand. One morning, he wakes up with an erection and is terrified. Not knowing what it means, he hits himself with a bat, cries, and calls his mother. To calm him down, Mrs. Livingston makes him repeat the Pledge of Allegiance until he settles down. Chloe becomes part of a popular group of friends who mock Jimmy, calling him Bubble Boy. Yet she often defends him. Curious one day, she knocks on the Livingston door. Mr. Livingston lets her in, and she notices the plastic tube system inside the house. Fascinated, she follows the tubes until she reaches Jimmy's room. Jimmy is shocked and nervous, since his mother has been the only woman he's ever spoken to. Chloe chats with him and compliments his guitar. He tries teaching her to play it with his gloved hands, but suddenly begins reciting the Pledge of Allegiance mid-lesson. From that day forward, they start hanging out daily. Mrs. Livingston dislikes their growing friendship, but is powerless to stop it. A montage shows their time together. Chloe gifts Jimmy a guinea pig inside a bottle for his birthday, and even brings kids into his room on Halloween. On her birthday, a drunk Chloe sneaks into Jimmy's room through the window. She insists she can't stay away from him and tries to get inside his bubble, but she passes out before she succeeds. Later on prom night, Chloe's sleazy boyfriend Mark arrives to pick her up. Jimmy is crushed. Mark even offers him a cigarette, but he doesn't know what it is. Not long after, Jimmy sees Chloe and Mark making out through his window. The next day, Chloe visits Jimmy again, this time wearing an engagement ring. Mark has proposed, and she tells Jimmy they're getting married that weekend at Niagara Falls. Though he's heartbroken, he hides his feelings. She leaves him a gift through the decontamination tube, but Jimmy ignores it and instead returns the guinea pig, asking her to go. Tearfully, Chloe leaves. Later, Jimmy opens the gift and finds a snow globe with the words, "I love you," inside. Stunned, he shouts her name and resolves to stop the wedding. He builds himself a portable bubble suit and sneaks out of the house without his parents' knowledge. For the first time, he runs freely and joyfully. At the bus station, he tries to buy a ticket, but realizes he has no money. Distraught, he wanders into the street and is struck by a bus. Fortunately, his bubble bounces him safely onto a moving train. Unfortunately, this train carries performers trapped in a freak show. The performers explain that their cruel boss, Dr. Freak, exploits them. When Jimmy finally meets Dr. Freak, a little person, he accidentally knocks him down with his bubble, which frees the performers. Then Jimmy continues his journey to Niagara Falls, though traveling on the scooter becomes difficult. Stopping at a diner to ask for a ride, Jimmy encounters police officers bullying a man named Push Pop. When Jimmy explains he has no immunity, the officers assume he is contagious and flee. Chaos erupts, and the restaurant catches fire. In the midst of it, Push Pop offers Jimmy a ride and agrees to take him toward Niagara Falls. Meanwhile, Mrs. Livingston reaches Dr. Freak, who tells Jimmy he's headed to Niagara Falls. Enraged, she calls Chloe and blames her for Jimmy's escape. While she argues with Dr. Freak, the freed performers outside steal her car. On the road, Push Pop and Jimmy accidentally hit a cow. Push Pop is devastated because in his faith, cows are sacred. Following his mother's teachings, Jimmy dismisses his religion as false. Offended, Push Pop abandons him. Jimmy presses on and eventually makes it to New York, where he meets an old man named Pappy, who offers him a ride. The next morning, Jimmy wakes to find the man still driving, but soon realizes Pappy has died at the wheel. The car crashes into a billboard. Shaken, Jimmy stumbles into a grocery store and calls Chloe. Moore answers Chloe's phone and coldly tells Jimmy to give up. He's about to marry Chloe in just an hour. Heartbroken and hopeless, Jimmy calls his mother to come pick him up. His parents soon arrive and take him into their car. While Mrs. Livingston heads to the washroom, Mr. Livingston takes the chance to bond with his son. He asks Jimmy how it felt to finally experience the outside world, and the two share a heartfelt father-son moment. Encouraged, Mr. Livingston reminds Jimmy not to give up before trying. Fueled by his father's words, Jimmy makes a bold decision. He bolts from the car and rushes to stop the wedding. Mrs. Livingston notices and immediately chases after him, while Jimmy's odd band of friends also find him and follow along. Slim and his biker crew arrive just in time to help, too. When Slim locks eyes with Mrs. Livingston, he realizes she is none other than his long-lost love, Wildfire. In a chaotic twist, all of them end up racing down an airport runway. A plane is taking off, and Jimmy manages to climb aboard with the help of an elderly pilot. They fly straight toward Niagara Falls, but disaster strikes. The plane crashes, throwing Jimmy into the waterfall. Thankfully, his protective bubble saves him from drowning, and he struggles his way to shore before racing toward the chapel. Inside, Chloe and Mark are exchanging vows. At the last possible moment, Jimmy bursts through the doors and declares his love for Chloe. To prove himself, he risks everything, tearing open his bubble just so he can kiss her. But the moment he does, he collapses unconscious. Chloe frantically tries to wake him, and just then, Mr. and Mrs. Livingston arrive. Overcome with grief, Mrs. Livingston mourns her son, but Mr. Livingston urges her finally to tell the truth. With shame, she reveals to everyone that Jimmy never had any illness at all. She had lied to him his whole life, keeping him locked away to protect him from the world's dangers. To everyone's shock, Jimmy suddenly stirs and wakes up. Though stunned by the revelation, he forgives his mother, understanding her actions came from love, even if they were misguided. At last, Jimmy embraces Chloe, and the church erupts into applause. Months later, the story comes full circle. Chloe and Jimmy are happily married, surrounded by all the quirky, unforgettable people he met on his incredible journey. With cheers and blessings, they drive off to their honeymoon, proving that sometimes the wildest adventures lead you exactly where you're meant to be.